The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, UNU Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ask for Candy, the official podcast for single women over 35 who are on the verge or over the cliff of giving up on love. Who I am, I'm Candace, HarperLoveCoach.com. I teach and inspire audacious intimacy to powerful, professional, grown women who want real relationships from seductive singlehoods. And more importantly, I help single city women over 35 who've given up on love discover their passions and their purpose and stop getting ghosted. And we are coming to you live from the V Club! As you can hear, we have a full house of gorgeous, wonderful, powerful ladies who are going to be in this conversation. The V Club is one of my favorite places to be. It's a gorgeous venue in the heart of Chelsea where women take classes, workshops, and attend events and on sex and relationships. And you can check out the V Club by going to thevclub.com to check out, see what's on the calendar. And I see some people coming in on the Facebook Live. I see Sean Lynch just joined. What's up, Sean? What's up, Brandon? What's up, Lee? All the boys are here, girls. This is going to be a lot of fun. So you might be listening to us on Armed Radio, on TuneIn, on your smart device. I don't know why I always twist those all around, but it's TuneIn on your smart device, Armed Radio, or you're listening in the garden on armedradioglobal.com. You know I love the garden. And we're also now available on iHeartRadio. So if you have an Alexa, you can ask for candy. Or if you want to call us, 1-800-508-5431. During the show, you can talk to us. You guys know this is a conversation. If you're shy, you can email us at askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. But those questions will be answered in a later broadcast. Like I said, I'm Candace, HarperLoveCoach.com, and my talent is conversation. My passion is personal growth. And my purpose is to teach and inspire radical self-acceptance in myself and others so that we can all have our best possible love life. Right, ladies? Woo! We all deserve that. And what this show is about, each week we have lively conversations about different topics relating to love and relationships. Sometimes we'll bring on special guests. Tonight we have the special ladies of the V Club. Or sometimes we play games and activities. But always we'll get a chance to laugh, cry, or just learn something new. And that is why this is a conversation. We're not here to hand down a bunch of dating and relationship rules or rights and wrongs. We're not here to shame your love situation. Our only intention is to create audacious intimacy, seductive singlehoods, and healthy relationships. And the goal of this show tonight is to help anybody out there who is struggling with Thanksgiving gratitude. Because let's face it, gratitude is a wonderful avenue to happiness, but it is not always the easiest thing to come about. Right, ladies? Does anybody feel anything about Thanksgiving gratitude? Radio silence. See, that's the thing about gratitude. People start thinking, what am I grateful for? I've been complaining. Attitude and right? You got to get gratitude in your attitude, have an attitude of gratitude.
I'm grateful for stuffing.
Huh? For stuffing? Courtney is all about the stuffing.
And then you only eat it when that's the best part of Thanksgiving.
Right? It's always easy to be grateful for the food. And it is the best part of Thanksgiving. You can look forward to that. You know you're going to be thankful. You hopefully know it's going to be good. If you've never been to someone's house where it wasn't good, the gratitude's hard there too. But yes, I'm also grateful for stuffing and cranberry sauce, a good cranberry sauce.
I feel like there should be a separate episode for it's not a good idea to be grateful for just food in your life.
Right? There's so much more to be grateful for.
It's possible when they replace the white stuff with food.
Exactly. So, I was thinking about the fact that it is kind of easy to sort of focus on the shitty things, at least for myself. I don't know if anybody else is willing to admit that. It's very easy for me to go down that slippery slope of focusing on the shitty things that are happening, mainly because it gives an excuse to feed our addictions. Maybe that's the gratitude for food. I'll be quick to go to a chocolate cake. I don't know about the rest of you if I'm in that sort of shitty mode. And sometimes our addiction is simply just being dissatisfied. So complaining is quite ordinary, and most people around us will co-sign our gripes without a doubt. However, if what we want this year is a whole happy Thanksgiving experience without all the pain, stuffing, and sadness sauce, gratitude is our secret Santa, everybody. So how do we know when we've gotten hooked on misfortune, and how do we get emotionally sober so we can enjoy our wine rather than bring down the holidays with it? What do we do when we've cried enough tears to brine a 10-pound turkey and can't figure out why all the good things are happening to bad people? Yes, sometimes life is rough with all the variables of happenstance and chance, and most importantly, just dealing with each other. It definitely doesn't always go the way we hope. But while we're each navigating around trying to make our own way, there are really only two types of other people to encounter: the generally happy ones and the generally miserable ones. The only thing that separates the two is perception. So much like the old glass half empty or full cliche, the idea that we have complete control over our own life's fulfillment is tried, true, and additionally somewhat scary. Fact is, it's not really about whether the glass is full or empty. Ultimately, either can be positive. It just depends on how you're looking at what you've ordered to drink. In other words, can you see how the choices you've made in your life can bring you refreshing fulfillment, or would you rather keep sucking down the swill of regret and protesting every swallow through the fear of going thirsty? Are you a dissatisfaction junkie? So I have 5 signs that you may be a dissatisfaction junkie. And the ladies are going to weigh in, because we're also going to talk about what is the rehab for each particular one. Now, trust me, there's a million more. No. Right? But I came up with 5. I see Brian joined us and Valentino. What's up, gentlemen? I'm glad you're here and listening. So the first one is, do you hate your job? Getting out of bed every weekday morning requires an oral forklift, and you spend most days plotting a lottery-winning escape. Your morning commute makes you feel like a slaughtering lamb, especially on Mondays. You can't stand what you're doing, and you can barely keep cordial for the sake of payday. You bitch to anyone who will listen, but if anyone suggests you leave, you can easily respond with a million reasons for why you shouldn't. So any of the ladies in the room and any of you out there, what do you think is the rehab for this kind of situation? And has anybody ever experienced like hating a job, like being in that level of dissatisfaction?
Got a new one. Got a new one.
Huh? You got a new one?
Just got a new job.
You just got a new one? That you hate already?
No, not a solution. Just get a new job.
Just get a new job.
Yeah.
I think that that's a good point. Yeah, go get a new job rather than sitting in the dissatisfaction of it. But how do you rehab the addiction to the dissatisfaction? Like a lot of people, yeah, that's an easy answer. But they'll say, oh, I can't get a new job because of this or because of that or because, I'm not going to get the same amount of money or, because of my skills. Like, how do you rehab from that level of emotional dissatisfaction?
Because for a lot of people, change is very scary and difficult, right? And
Totally.
It's inertia. It's the devil you know. It's better than the devil you don't. So we do get stuck in jobs. I mean, I think most people in the world get stuck in jobs.
Absolutely.
50% of Americans hate their job.
Oh, yeah?
Hate, H-A-T-E?
Wow. That was Maisie from Maisie. I love that you're chiming in. Maisie in the background. She said 50% of Americans hate their job. I don't know what you guys think about that on the Facebook Live. If any of you hate your job, please chime in. I see Jenny just joined us. I believe that's probably very true. That sounds like a real statistic. But what happens is, like Courtney said, like people, it's the devil right? So, what are some steps we can take to emotionally rehab out of that?
Well, I think it's important to ask, what don't you like about it? And not just in a complaining way, but is it that you have a boss that you can't deal with and you can learn how to negotiate with them better or not take it personally? Is it that you don't like your role there? In which case, how can you renegotiate the role or move towards a promotion, or if a promotion's not possible? I mean,
because if you change jobs, it's going to be SODD, same shit day to day.
Yeah.
SSDD.
Yeah.
And you're just going to bring all that baggage with you to a new spot and not have any, coping mechanisms for that. So I think that what I do when I'm in situations like that is I do something else and make that better. And really say and get an immediate, I can do this kind of thing.
You mean like a hobby or something outside of the job?
Just do something. Show up to the V Club, whatever.
Find a community.
That propels you out of it so you can examine it. Because that whole round robin that you start on is an avalanche from hell. And you're just your own worst enemy, and you have to get grip with it because it probably is invasive in all aspects of your life.
Absolutely.
You know, your family will tell you you're constantly complaining. You know, you get stuck in traffic and it was the other guy's fault. It's every little thing comes down to the dissatisfaction addiction, and you just like go cold turkey on the dissatisfaction, you know, and break it somehow in some other aspect of your life, and then you'll get the courage to examine what's wrong in the job.
Absolutely.
Like what you do have control over and what you don't.
Right.
Yeah. No,
Just change one thing. Just change one thing.
But what if
It's
you're
scary.
addicted to that?
Yes, and you're
right?
addicted
Because I
to
think
it.
some
You have to
people-
want to not be addicted.
Yeah.
Because I think some people get stuck in jobs because they're afraid to interview for a new job. They're afraid to make a change for a whole lot of reasons. But some people are literally addicted to dissatisfaction, because I think those are two different things.
Yeah, because that addiction, you'll get a lot of people who will get on board with your bandwagon, right? So if I'm like, oh, my job sucks, and then, oh yeah, I get it, I've had a job that sucks too, and then you get the sympathy, then you get that I'm so much better than the job satisfaction, you know what I mean? That being right thing.
Maybe you don't deserve, you don't think you deserve to be happy.
Better, yeah.
What is that called? Like fear of success, fear of failure.
Absolutely, or like low self-worth, like not like deserve level. Like realizing that you deserve to have something better. But here's the thing about that. In the understanding that I might deserve something better, it's like, where can I find the little places where I can be grateful? Like that it's a regular paycheck and it's sustaining me for right now while I figure out something else maybe.
And I think another potential solution, no matter how temporary, is to remember why you started that job.
Yeah.
Like there was probably at least one point in your life where you were like, ooh, I really want to do that. And like, what was that? That spark of creativity and excitement, like that, to remember that moment.
Look for the pieces of goodness.
Yeah.
Because I think that will help you get clarity for what to do next.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something, and maybe I can just take a direction of what I liked before and then come back to that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah.
have this, I think American culture has a very limiting belief, and I hope that, we're coming out of it, and certainly New York City, I think, is coming out of it. But I'm from the Midwest, and I think there's this belief that hard work, which can include lots of negative experiences on the job, equals, success. And, the chase for the American dream. I think some people have this mindset where you have to be miserable, or that's just how it is. And I think it's getting over that mindset and really letting go of that belief and understanding that you can have a job that is fulfilling and happy and gives you energy instead of taking energy from you. And you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think I was in that trap myself for many jobs before the V Club. And
Right?
It's like work is supposed to suck, right? That's why they call it work.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point, Courtney, too, because I think that's one of those things that's like a cultural, like it's just a cultural thing, right? Like, I don't know what they call it. It's like a standard thing that people, if you say your work sucks, it's like, well, it's supposed to. It's like, yeah, that's, a lot of people will agree with you. Like it's, that's the way it should be. But there's just something about getting purposeful. And that's a huge, I'm taking a huge leap from hating your job to getting purposeful. But you do want to be willing to like ask yourself, like, am I worth actually loving what I do? Because there's a lot of people out there that actually do and make money at it. So it is possible. And we're all magical creating beings, right? So, yeah.
I had a friend like that who was very dissatisfied with her job, and she started to volunteer on the weekends.
Did she?
Yeah, and she became very good at volunteers. She came up with all kinds of creative programs for the kids and all that, and it really helped her like her job, and she's still at her job. So
she turned it around.
She had an outlet because her job wasn't particularly creative, but the volunteer work was.
Yeah.
So I think what was lacking was the creativity in her job, and she was paid well, so she knew she had to somehow figure that out. But she did volunteer work on the weekends.
That's cool.
Exactly.
There's lots of different things, right?
Kind of related to what I was saying, because if you don't like your job, then there might be some aspect of yourself that you're not bringing to it.
Yes. Or some aspect of
creativity
yourself
in
you
that
don't like.
case. So realizing like
Zero
what
creativity
are
in my
my
job.
strengths,
Yeah.
and like how can I really bring those out in my role more, so that I might like it more.
And then
Absolutely.
finding other passions in life, like for example, volunteering, actually awakens the passion of being in you, and then you're much more likely to say, well, why am I being dissatisfied in my job? Like, I want to be passionate, happy with everything in my life.
Yeah.
Usually when people are unhappy with with their job, they tend to be unhappy in their relationships and something with family. It's sort of like, it's always a snowball.
It's also, right?
It's never like one thing in life.
And they say how we do one thing is how we do everything. And I love that you said that, Courtney, because we're getting to relationships too. That's in there too. We're going to cover that one. We got Angela came in, Allison came, and Harold, Clarence. What's up, people? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, okay, here's the second one. You can't get good customer service anywhere. So, okay, we're New Yorkers. And we know that customer service is not necessarily like plentiful in New York City, but I'm a big believer that a lot of, what we experience, even as New Yorkers, it's like, what are we bringing? So you have a list of places you're boycotting. You've had run-ins with every cashier, clerk, salesperson, or waitstaff member from Bloomingdale's to Target. You've actually been banned from a few places yourself. You have neck-snapping stories that you can tell at dinner about telling people off and putting people in their place. If you wrote them all down, it would be a how-to for never getting your way, but always getting the last word. So you can tell if you're a dissatisfaction junkie if you're always in confrontation with people, right? And for those of us, I know there's a lot of people on the Facebook Live and a lot of people out there listening that may not be from New York, but maybe are from big cities. If you've ever ridden mass transit, if you've ever had to commute anywhere, anytime you have to deal with other people, if you find that you're somebody who's constantly in confrontation, there's a sign that you might be having a dissatisfaction issue, that it's not necessarily about where you live, but it's like, what are you bringing and what are you getting up with every morning, right? How are you showing up? What do you ladies think about that? Does anybody, I have experiences of my own dissatisfaction addiction and showing up and getting into confrontations with people, especially in New York, it's very easy. But have you ladies ever had an experience that you want to share or anything that comes up around that?
So just recently I was on 34th Street where the Macy's is, and everyone was shuffling around and walking very, very slowly, right? And I'm like, God, why are these people walking so slowly? I have something to do. Right, and I'm not even a New Yorker yet. So I'm shuffling around and I'm like, these people are so slow. What are they taking pictures of? And then I looked up and there was this beautiful display in the Macy's window, the Christmas Macy's display. Yeah. And I looked up and I was like, oh, that's really pretty. And I was like, now I understand why they're walking slowly. Why was I being such a grouch? So sometimes you have to kind of check yourself. I think a lot of the energy that we receive when we move through life is based off of the energy that we're giving. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've gone up to a sales clerk at a place and she looks around angry and sour and everything. And I just look at her and I smile and I'm like, hey, can you help me? And she's like, yeah, sure. And then her expression changes and she becomes a lot nicer. So I think but if I just approached her with that kind of negative attitude and fed off of her, then I may have had a fight with her and had to talk to her manager. Right. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of I think a lot of what happens in life, it is easy to I call it being very important. When we think that we're more important than other people, it's easy to get into that mood, especially when you're doing something that you're passionate about, or you're trying to get somewhere and you kind of get into this zone where you think that you're so important and other people around you don't matter. But you have to kind of check yourself and think about why are people responding to me in such a negative way, and think about kind of what you're giving out that could be triggering that as well. Take responsibility for your energy and your actions and the way that you treat people.
Absolutely. I love that.
We had an instance on Thursday with that snow, that horrible snowstorm that just came out of nowhere. Yeah. And I was being given this award and I invited Sarah and she invited Sophie, and it was hell getting out there. And I had to show up, and we had a good time though. It was we just chose to get there and do it in any means possible, and it was just, and then I thought no one's going to be there, and what am I doing this?
Was it making you feel confrontational? Because I feel misfortunate weather, it can bring up that feeling.
And I thought, if we're confrontational about why are you dragging us out? But we all chose to look at it like it's an adventure. And, we survived, and we were starving when we got out there, and there was all kinds of great food, and, so it was just, it kind of turned around. Yeah. But you just had to kind of believe and just plow through it. No fun.
So maybe it's about observing life and accepting things and basically looking at life as an adventure. Because if you see it that way, then you're not irritable at everything, right?
Yeah.
Like every time you see traffic or someone's walking slowly. Because otherwise we can be like these balls of irritation, especially living in the city.
Totally.
Because we don't have nature around us. There's nothing that is easily there to relax us, right? I mean, most people in the world do have a little bit of nature around.
Yeah.
So we don't have that.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, like, it made me laugh when you said customer service. Because if anyone is disappointed and mad at customer service in the United States, I have a solution. Go live in Europe.
Go live in Europe? Those of you listening in Europe.
You just need to go to like London, you know, go to another major city in the world, but not in the United States, first world city, and you will like bless the customer service in the United States. Really? No idea. I love Europe.
That's fantastic. Does anybody else have anything to say about that?
I have a quick, sorry.
Go ahead, Jamie. Jump in. Get in frame a little so
It's
people
kind
live
of
can see you.
kind of a funny story. So I just got engaged and we were very happy and we wanted to celebrate at a restaurant. So we go out and I share with the waiter, just got engaged. And he was like, what? And I repeated myself and he's like, okay, so what do you want?
He's like, whoop-de-doo. What do you...
we were crushed. So we decided to go back to the place where we had our first date for dessert.
Yeah.
So before another reaction like that came our way, I said to the waiter, listen, we really need you to respond warmly to what we're about to share. Can you just please give us a good response? And he was like, okay. And so I told him and he was like, oh, congratulations. Sometimes you have to preload.
Right. Like gently pull it out of people a little bit.
Why was it so important that obviously people should respond positively, but like, why was it so important to you that the second waiter, like, why did you actually have to tell us that?
Second waiter, because I couldn't have dealt with another.
You were like, I want some celebration.
Yeah.
Why do you care how a waiter responds to you? The reason why we went out was because we felt very isolated in our celebration. And we hadn't met up with our friends yet, so we wanted somebody else to acknowledge, family around here. So we're like, please celebrate with us.
Wait, Jamie, PJ Thomas is giving applause. He's celebrating with you. Thank you for that, PJ. But I get that, though. When you have good news and things like that, and you were saying, like, you're from the Midwest, my family lives down south, and you tell people about your personal business, and they all of a sudden get interested, but not in the city.
Yeah.
Like, not in New York. Yeah. Hey, Kenny Tallier is here.
Too busy.
Yeah, right? Like, everybody's too busy, like, in their own little bubble. Yeah. But as that pertains to, like, the gratitude thing and the dissatisfaction thing, I think a lot of what Kathy was saying about the experience with the snow, it's like, and I think what Courtney was saying, it's like that decision to not let the moment dictate you, and you dictate the moment. So the way to find the gratitude in the moment is to generate it. Like, what are the good things about this? What am I going to get out of it? If I can turn a snowstorm into an adventure, or if I can just, if I want to have a good experience, so I'm getting the waiter to partner with us and get on board, whatever it is, like, how am I going to generate this experience so that I can be grateful about it, right? What do you ladies think about that?
I've worked in sales for like 6 years.
Yeah.
I'm not currently, but like a few years ago. And I know from working in sales that if a customer is nice to you, you'll give more back to them. Like, I've given discounts, like things I shouldn't have done just because they were nice. But if they put you in a horrible way, you're going to be like, no, go
actually make it worse for you.
Yeah.
Right?
And like, it's always stuck with me through life, because if you're nice to people, they'll be nice back to you. Rewards.
Right? It's so true, Maisie. And what with Black Friday coming and Christmas shopping and all of that stuff, it's something you want to keep in mind, right? You want to get those sales, right? In the holiday spirit. Okay, are we ready to go to number 3?
Yep.
Okay, so another sign you can tell if you're a dissatisfaction junkie does how are you translate to what are your problems today in your mind. So if someone asks you how you are, and I've had people like that, and I've been that person too, where it's like, how you doing? Well, my toe hurts, and, I woke up this morning, and, there was no milk in the house, so I had to drink my coffee black. You know what I mean? Like, it's that instant, like, let me go into like all the most, and sometimes it's even worse than that, like all the horrible things that are going on. Now, I'm not saying that you need to pretend like horrible things aren't happening, but it's like, you know, when you want to jump into like your issues at work, your complicated relationships, how much you hate being single, how the slack-jawed idiot at the Chipotle shorted you on your brown rice burrito. Like, it's like, you know, that sort of interaction with people is part of feeding into like, I'm dissatisfied. And what we focus on, we grow, right? And create more of it. Does anybody have anything to say about that sort of dissatisfaction, that like conversational dissatisfaction?
I like to say what you appreciate appreciates.
I like that. It's very true. It's true.
People hurt people.
I know some life coaches have this rule where you do not complain, like as just a rule, you do not complain.
Law of attraction.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
Well, it's not law of attraction. It's like I know life coaches will have that. So this is like not like mystical, but it literally is a rule. Like you don't complain. Not because of the energy, it's just because you really do feed it, and then it kind of grows in your mind, and you may or may not think that thoughts of energy. I mean, I do, but maybe a lot of people don't. But it goes.
And they may not even realize they're complaining, and you have to say, you know, you're complaining.
Yeah.
You know, you listen to yourself, and so if you have a no complaining zone, you know, and then it suddenly becomes verboten to do that, then you can tell them you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
You can set the groundwork.
I would wonder if those people actually are able to live up to that. You know, I know people could have it as a policy, but I mean, I think like there's a legitimate need that everybody has to vent sometimes in order to get to a more positive place. And so I think the important thing is just to do that consciously, to be like, look, I just need to vent for 10 minutes to get it out, and then I'll be able to think about what I want. You know, because that way you're like consciously getting yourself set up to focus on what you want instead.
So time boxing yourself, right?
So like only 3 complaints, and then
Well, I do think there's something to be said for identifying what you don't want, so that you can then identify what you do want. But I think, and I agree with you, Valerie. Like actually, like Courtney said, time boxing it and giving it a finite sort of space. Right? I'm just going to get this off my chest, and then once I get it off my chest, I can get back in my vortex or my happy bubble, whatever you want to call it. But I know people personally in my life. One of whom I just had an email exchange with, and she has had every illness you can imagine, from Lyme disease, cancer, everything. And she has spent all of our adult life getting ready to be sick and talking about being sick. And I'm not saying that she wanted that for herself. I don't necessarily think that she, you know, I want to make myself sick, but because of the fear of it. And when we have that sort of conversational dissatisfaction, we can actually manifest it. I know that sounds like a woo-woo word, and some people get very like, oh, that's woo-woo. But whether you want to call it manifestation or just, the quantum physics or attraction, or the quantum physics of, how what energies we put on things, what our vibration is, all of that. Like, it's very possible to create your experience in that way, and it can show up in your body when you're constantly dissatisfied, as stress, as illness, as all kinds of things.
Well, the placebo effect, right? I mean, that's real.
Yeah.
So whenever they test drugs, they do a double-blind placebo effect study.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, just to see like.
The placebo effect is like 30%. I mean, that's not high.
I know.
It's like very significant.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
Yeah.
And I also think how are you is just one of those kind of perfunctory, meaningless things. I mean, if I see somebody, I don't say, how are you? I say, let's shake it or something.
But it's also, here's the thing about that. You're right. I think, Kath, like sometimes people just say those things because it's just like a social, but it's also an opportunity to like get yourself into a place of feeling good, right? So if I'm focusing on things that are going right, how am I? I could, like, I love it when people say I could complain and then they choose not to.
Listen, that's
right? Because we always could at any given moment.
Complain, but who listens?
Right?
Yeah, or you could just say, I'm coping with stuff, or,
Or I'm focusing on those things that are going well.
Yeah.
Like, my health is good today. If my health is good and, someone else is not doing well, or I'm feeling strong enough to do whatever it is that I need to do today, or, my check arrived in the mail, like whatever it may be, my dog is happy and healthy, at least, we have a
frame things. Like if you say like, I can't do this, then I'll always reframe it to just be like, I'm getting better at this.
Oh, I love that, Danielle. Exactly. Or I'm growing in this. I'm like creating this.
Also, there's a difference between like delivering something informational and complaining.
Yes.
So you say something negative, but it's a purely informational statement, right, rather than complain.
Yeah.
And I also think there's a difference between, you can identify what you don't like without complaining to yourself or to anyone else.
Absolutely.
Those are just different. It's a different frame, mindset or frame.
Absolutely. Lee on the Facebook Live. Lee is my unofficial co-host, ladies. And Lee always joins. He always supports. He says, I work with some people who always complain. It is hard to get them to realize it is easy to complain and look for the negatives, but it is important to look for solutions and learn to identify the good things that are happening. It is a matter of identifying and establishing a positive culture. I like that, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee. I hope that you are leading in that charge at your work. And PJ Thomas says, great Facebook Live. Thank you, PJ. Oh, you're a great Facebook Live watcher. All right. Are you in your PJs? Kath wants to know, honey. And La Liz just joined. Hi, La Liz. All right, so now we're getting into the relationship stuff. Are you guys ready? We're ready to go into delve into. Woo! So you know that you are a dissatisfaction junkie if your significant other sucks. If he or she is the inspiration for most of your songs of woe, right? Kathy is a very dirty girl. Every person who knows you thinks of you as the girl or guy in a bad relationship. As the years have gone by, you have less and less people to complain to because almost everyone who knows you has heard it all before. No matter how horrible and unloved you claim to feel with that person, year after year, you stay with them. And the idea of walking away from the relationship seems like an impossible fantasy that you indulge in, but never pursue. That is some dissatisfaction for your ass. So who wants to talk about that? Because I've been there. Like
ass and dissatisfaction.
Right, exactly. Who's been there or who wants to talk about like that? I mean, you don't have to go into your deep personal stuff if you don't want to, but you're welcome to. Right, exactly.
I can speak from the other side. Like, I have a friend who has been with this guy since she's 15, and he's always been horrible to her, and it's always some drama, and he's always making her cry. And like, I was just on the other side, and one day I just turned to him, I'm like, I don't want to hear about him anymore. Like, you're not doing anything to solve your problem. I'm completely over hearing you complain about him. Like, either leave his ass or don't talk to me about it. So it's like, I just you reach like a breaking point. So like sometimes you need to be conscious of like how you are making other people feel.
Yeah.
Well, people, like people
they just can't.
They literally suck the air out of their
I know. It's like,
you couldn't breathe.
No, somebody's phone is going off. Is that you, Sarah? It's all right. But no, it's true. Like when you have that, especially if they don't actually. Now it's a whole. There's chaos going on in the studio, folks. It's okay. It's all right. It's a digital age, and these things happen. So, like what Courtney was saying, it can be very vampiric. It can be very much an emotional suck when you're that supportive friend, and that person wants to just stay year after year. But people do it. It's very ordinary, right? People do it all the time without looking at what really. I mean, I think, and as a dating and relationship coach, what I talk about with my clients is we always have to look to what's going on with ourselves, right? So this is why this is in the dissatisfaction junkie section, because if my significant other sucks year after year, what am I doing? Like, what's going on with my expectation that I'm needing for them to be something different in order for me to be okay? Like, what is my inner dialogue as far as that's concerned? And how am I treating myself if I'm staying with someone who sucks year after year? So what's my relationship with myself? Don't you ladies agree?
I mean, sometimes it's just you're trying to get something from somebody who can't give it to you. And you have to come to grips with the fact that you're waiting for them to come around, and they're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
They're just not going to come around.
Yeah.
And so you have to, to come up with another plan.
But I wonder this, Kathy. I wonder if, because I think it's very reasonable and it's very ordinary, because we always think we're going into a relationship and we're going to get something out of it. Like, they're going to treat us in a certain way. We want this thing out of them. But I wonder if it comes down to this problem of expectation that we think that someone is supposed to show up in a certain way for us to be okay.
Of course, I mean, that always comes from our expectations based on our childhood and
Yes.
how our parents treated each other and how we either wanted to be treated the same as or different than the way they treated each other.
Absolutely.
And expectations of somebody never really go the way that we think they should.
Absolutely. And also a lot of times we expect somebody else to give us what we're not even giving ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like that. What's Lee say? He says, by staying, you are having a need or many needs met. Wait, you are having, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
If you're
like
not leaving, then you have to look at what
Right.
you're getting out of the
Getting that
relationship. Because
dissatisfaction
otherwise you would leave.
shit.
he says, maybe the sharing of things sucking is the need for attention from others. That's a good point. too.
Exactly.
That's a very, very
Pity
good point.
party.
It's a pity,
I
right?
call that the poor me violin. Like the poor me violin.
The palmy
It
violin.
does feel good when you're like, oh, I'm having the worst day, and someone's like, oh, can I get you
Yeah,
something?
right.
It does feel nice, and I think that that's why a lot of people get pulled into this syndrome of like feeling sorry for themselves all the time.
Yeah.
Because then they get attention.
It's very addictive.
Rest
It's very
for
addictive
victim.
attention.
Yeah.
Then you also become part of a very, very big group of people, right? That's either unhappy with the relationships or people that hate their job. Then you can talk to a lot of people about it, and everybody relates.
Yeah.
It's sort of this like it's a self-fulfilling feeding circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So
let's.
feel like belonging to that community.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate need that you're going to have.
But with relationships, I mean, sometimes it's not practical to leave, right? If you have children, young children, financial situation, sometimes you can't leave, but then you can find a solution. Like, for example, some people become, they go into open relationships because the sex is not working, they can't leave. So it's not that I don't think we're trying to say you must leave immediately, but find some solution that makes you stop complaining.
Well, here's the thing. Here's our opportunity to talk about that. Like, what do we think is the rehab? I mean, so let's say you do want to stay, because obviously, I think both Lee and Courtney made a good point. It's like you're getting something out of it, and then you might have some logistic reasons for why you feel like it. So you make the decision to stay. For one thing, I think it's choosing. Like, choose staying or going. And by choosing it, I don't just mean make the decision. I mean do it 100%. Like, if I'm going to stay, I can't have one foot out the door and still be complaining to all my friends and family. And if I'm going to leave, right, I can't still be in a space of like, you hurt me and I'm a victim of you. So choosing, I think, is first. But what are some other rehabilitation things for that kind of addiction?
Gosh, there's so many.
Right? Let's talk about them. This is the time, honey. Go right, get in there, Valerie.
Well, I mean, I think we talked a lot about like what needs we are getting met. So I think it's important to acknowledge those and appreciate them, and to realize that what you appreciates. Like, if you're relating to the person as you suck, like just like you were saying, if you walk into a store, or you were saying as a salesperson, if I approach you and I think you suck, how am I going to treat you?
Yeah.
And then if they receive that, then they're going to treat you the same way back. But what if you brought out the good qualities in them by the way you were treating them? Because that's what happened in the beginning of the relationship. You fell in love with them for the good qualities, and those are still in them.
Yeah.
There's something that you could learn how to draw back out. But so that's one thing. Another thing
Yes.
Anna likes that.
It doesn't come from cheating on them or having an open relationship. I don't think anything has ever helped a relationship, mend itself by having you. You have an extracurricular activity on the side.
Oh,
No,
that
I mean, I
help?
think that
Does
like
that ever help?
Courtney was mentioning open relationships. Like, I think there's
Cheating is not cheating.
right. Open relationships is not
Right.
cheating. It's like both people agreeing. Then there's many different rules and boundaries that you can both create
Right.
together. If like
Does that
something's not
help
working.
sometimes? Does that really help?
I think it can help sometimes. I mean, I know Esther Perel wrote another book about that.
Yeah.
Well, there are couples that, they want to stay together for whatever reason, they're just not, the sex is not working out, and they both agree to have an open relationship. That allows them to stay together. They might potentially be happy.
Then they get their needs met elsewhere, and then everyone's getting their needs met, even if it's not from that one person. I mean, I think that I have a lot of opinions about that too. I mean, I think that could work, but only if both people are on the same page about it.
Yeah.
And that's not usually the case.
The
And,
same vision.
I mean, there's another
both
whole benefit to be gained about learning your attachment style. I don't know if that's something that you guys talk about with your clients, but it's like we have a certain way of a certain preference for closeness versus distance, and a lot of times we get attracted to somebody who has the opposite preference.
Yeah.
And then it's really about learning how to identify what your needs are and speak about them in a way that isn't going to push the other person away. Speaking about it in a way that's not going to make them feel wrong or bad.
Like owning them, right? Like taking responsibility for them, owning them, being authentic about them.
Yeah, like if you're one of those people that craves a lot of closeness and your partner wants a lot of distance, it's about, first of all, like learning how to meet that your own need.
Yeah.
Like having your own sense of like maybe a meditation practice, journaling, and also like having supportive communities of other friends and family to get the emotional needs met, right? So you're not like putting that all on your partner, but also learning how to communicate that to them in a way where they feel safe, rather than making them wrong about wanting distance, like allowing them to have space, but then saying, hey, I really want to feel closer to you, like how could we do that, like speaking about it in an invitational way. And if you're someone who likes more distance and your partner is clingy, it's like trying to recognize that there's ways that you do enjoy closeness and like actually owning what those are, and like learning how to be with your feelings and their feelings, instead of like looking at the issue on the surface, like going deeper and actually learning how to talk about your needs together.
Isn't that how usually it works? Clingy people are attracted to people who are
more distant.
It's like this inherent conflict.
Yeah, because you'll pay attention to me.
But still clingy people, I mean, usually they repel each other.
Right, and two avoidant people usually repel each other too, so
they feel like they're winning if their attachment style is so clingy, and then they get that person to stop doing what they're doing, and that never works. I mean, I had a husband who was a writer, and he had to write 3 or 4 hours in the evening, and I had to go entertain myself. Because that was the way he was entertaining himself.
Exactly. So it's like learning how to harmonize in that way. If you were judging him the whole time, then that wouldn't have worked.
And the first wife did that. So she was like, "Are you done in there? With your little comic book stuff?"
But here's the thing. I mean, like all you ladies touched on different avenues, different journeys, different modalities for how you could find some healing in the space of your relationship sucking. But most importantly, with all of them, like let's say you do decide to have an open relationship, or you do decide to change the structure of your relationship. I think Valerie mentioned a little bit. It is so important to have a shared vision. So even if you decide to divorce, it's still a partnership, especially if you have kids, because you got to figure out how you're going to transit through that process. And I think the reason sometimes when a relationship sucks, it can feel so scary to make any sort of transition or transformation, is because the reason it sucks is because you're not on the same page. You're not creating the same vision, and you're not, and there's an expectation that the other person, is not meeting, and that each of you have, that is unfair, an unfair expectation, because neither one of you are filling yourselves up if you both feel like the other one sucks. Right? So conversation has to happen, and getting on the same page has to happen, even if it means we're on the same page about ending it, or we're on the same page about pushing it forward, or going to an open relationship, or restructuring, or talking about our attachment styles. Like, the willingness to talk about it has got to happen. And a lot of people don't want to do that, right? Yeah, they want to stay in the dissatisfaction of it.
And how much dissatisfaction are you really willing to take?
Exactly.
And why are you willing to take that much of it?
Right?
Yeah.
Don't you notice, ladies, it always comes back to like your self-worth. Like,
totally.
Like, aren't I worth more than like just being dissatisfied?
Yeah, and our level of self-acceptance and self-love.
Yeah.
Like realizing that no relationship is better than a bad relationship.
Right. My mom used to always say that. I can do bad by myself, honey. Meanwhile, steadily complaining about my father. But it's true, right? Better to be single than in something that sucks.
Yeah, and I just want to say that, obviously I think for the most part we've been talking about relationships that are not abusive relationships.
Yeah, like if you're being physically abused,
Well, yeah, but
verbally or emotionally.
Abuse can be so insidious that it's really hard to even pick up on sometimes if you're the victim of it. And I just worked with someone recently who, is in a situation where she's very confused, and it's really hard to accept her reality that her partner is being very abusive, because obviously, she fell in love with him in the first place, and they have kids together, and it's a very difficult situation to get out of. Yeah. But I think that, the most important thing is to really get clear on how you're feeling and how you're experiencing, the other person in your relationship, because it can be, if you're being gaslighted, like it can be very confusing about what's going on, and if the toxicity is abuse, or is it just, kind of normal dysfunction that is, not abusive, but you know what I mean? Like there are different levels.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's just important to say that. Like if you're talking about dissatisfaction, that might be one thing. If you're talking about, really being miserable and afraid, and nervous and walking on eggshells all the time, then you need to really, speak with a therapist or, read the book about verbal abuse. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
No, but you touched on a really good thing.
Clarify, there was a question about what gaslighting was. So gaslighting is like when someone else is invalidating your reality. Mm-hmm. Like if you say something, they're trying to twist it around so that you're wrong and it's not, and it's your fault.
Wow. Yeah. But exactly, I love that you brought that up, Jamie, because like that is the when you have this sort of like low level or like default of dissatisfaction, where you just think it's like, I'm just dealing, like that's a sign that something that deep can be going on, right? I can remember like in my abusive relationship, we were together for 4 years, and there was just this sort of like, I was always on like 3. And how, from a 0 to 10, I was just always on 3 and just coping and surviving. Yeah. And like you said, the woman, she's not even in a space where she can admit that's what's going on, because sometimes you just think, oh, that's just how life is. Yeah. But if you can look at your day to day and it's just constant misery and that constant complaining about your partner, and it's just, you have to wonder, like, am I in an abusive situation? Is this person, toxic for me?
Another thing too, Candace, I'm wondering if this was your experience, because I was in a marriage that was verbally abusive, and it took me like 7 years to figure that out. And the thing about it, another part that's insidious is that it can be really good, and then it can be bad, and then it can be good again, and it can be, so you kind of ride this roller coaster where you're kind of like, oh, what, things were just okay, and that's kind of another trap,
And even in that too, because I had that experience, and when it was good, it was like, I hope it stays good, I hope it stays good, I hope it stays good. That's another sign that something's wrong, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Woo! We getting deep, girls.
Pleaser.
Let's say that again, Kat.
Trying to be a pleaser.
Yes, it's totally codependent.
Copacetic.
Yeah. No, it's true. We had Julie has joined us, Emily has joined us, Rebecca, Michael. Welcome, everybody. You came in right in a good, juicy part of the conversation. But thank you, Jamie, for bringing that up, because absolutely. All of this stuff that we're talking about, it's all symptoms. We're all talking about symptoms of deeper things that are going on, right? And yeah, we mentioned that it does come down to self-love. All of this stuff does come down to self-love. But it's that willingness to face those things that will just have you living a life that is less than you deserve. And abuse is one of those things. It's like, when we allow that in our lives, and it is an allowance. And as much as codependency is a sickness, and it requires therapy, and we need help to get out of these things, there is a certain level of allowing and choosing, because we don't know better, or we don't have the tools, or we were conditioned to think that that's okay. Mm-hmm. And so it's good to identify these things, by the lesser behaviors, the lesser symptoms. It's like, cancer can sometimes give you a little rash. So if we're not willing to get the little rash checked out and acknowledge that something's not quite right, then we're ignoring what could be a much bigger, deeper, more serious problem, right? Yeah. Absolutely. Woo! Ladies. You ready to go to the last one, or does anybody else have anything on that?
Well, I think it also comes down to the expectation that someone else is supposed to make you happy, like you said at the beginning. Like
totally agree with
having
that.
Expectations as opposed to doing what it takes. And I know that there's a lot of different examples and work involved, but doing what it takes to make yourself happy, and then coming to your relationship from that place of fullness.
Yeah.
I know, like, there's a lot of ways to get there, but
yeah,
that's what it comes
down to.
You
don't need someone, you want them.
And of course, like, having the ability to at least make a plan and walk away if it is an abusive situation.
Right.
Because you can tell yourself, like, oh, I'm not going to put expectations on the other person, but, like, if you're actually getting hurt, then that's a different story.
Yeah, but I love what you said though, Valerie. It's like filling yourself up so you can overflow. Like once you get out of an abusive relationship, if you get yourself to singlehood, First of all, you're like working your way up. When you get yourself to singlehood, it's all about filling yourself up so that the next time you can overflow and you can be a vibrational match for somebody who overflows. Like no more,
I find you have to really get rid of that too. You can't have one foot in the door with an abusive relationship, because I was in that situation with this guy and I felt trapped. And then I thought, I'll meet somebody, and then it'll make me leave him. And that never happened. Yeah. It was his 40th birthday and I had made this bracelet, and he said, "You're getting drunk and you're embarrassing me." And I said, "Oh, really?" And I went, "Bam!" And I just punched him, and my bracelet went, all the pearls went everywhere, and I said, "That's my relationship." It just fizzled. Yeah. And I left shortly thereafter, but like a month afterwards, I met Mark. A month afterwards, because it was like I had the space. And I moved out, and I remember the blinds coming in, and it was like, I don't care what happens, I don't have to deal with Lance.
We don't recommend punching out the current person that you with. That was Cass's experience. Don't be out there punching people to get a new one.
Yeah. I didn't even punch him that hard. The bracelet was very weak.
But you know what? It's also kind of amazing, though, just to be able to express yourself, because that's very feminine energy, right? I'm not necessarily saying you have to punch, but to just cry, scream, punch,
get it out,
punch like a pillow.
Yeah.
Masculine energy holding it in
the face. I punch him in the shoulder too.
Yeah, no, Courtney's right. It is really, really important to get to a point where you can express your emotions, right? And be able to get it out.
Yeah.
Right? I love this. This is a group of excited ladies. Everybody's talking at the same time. Now, the audio people can't hear us if we all talk at the same time. They can only hear one of us ladies. But afterwards, we can all, commiserate. All right. Now, look, everybody's like, "Oh, the teacher has spoken." All right, we're on number 5, and we're almost out of time. We only got 9. This goes so fast. Don't you feel like it went by really fast? Yeah. Did you ladies have fun so far?
Yeah.
All right, so we got one more sign that you might be a dissatisfaction junkie. If your singlehood sucks. So here's a tweet. You're not angry because you're single because you're angry. And before you get your knickers in a twist, I'm only talking to people who feel angry about being single. If you're happy about it and wise and conscious enough to know that it's a choice you're making, then as the Aussies say, good on you, mate. Here's the catch-22. If you are truly happy about it, you probably have to work to stay single. Happy people tend to be great catches. I feel like when you're a happy single person, you attract everybody. So what's the rehab for if you feel like your singlehood sucks and you're in dissatisfaction about it? What do you ladies think?
There could be something about social media, I feel like, is a huge source of fake reality. So perhaps unfollowing couples that you like. You're like, "Oh my God, I want that and I need that." Unfollow them if they're on Facebook and blurting their stuff out and it's affecting you in a negative way. Cut them out. That could be a potential solution.
One thing to do, right? Just to soothe yourself for a moment, right? What else?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because in the beginning we were talking about being dissatisfied with the single scene, and I don't think I've ever been part of the single scene because I've always I've never tried to meet somebody, and I know that doesn't mean that other people shouldn't try to meet someone, because I coach women in how to meet someone, and that includes the whole plan. But I've just joined communities. I've become part of friendship circles. I've had events. I've had dinner parties. I've gone to dinner parties. I've I volunteered. I've gone to organizations. I've surrounded myself with people that share my values, and I've always met men in those circles that are friends of friends, and those are going to be the people that you really connect the most deeply with. But if you don't, you're surrounded by people that care about you and that you can be yourself with. And I feel like that's, at least for me, how I've always met the men that I really connect the most deeply.
Hold that for 1 second, Valerie, because we got to say goodbye to the audio people, and we're going to come right back and finish up with the Facebook Live people. So for the audio people, never forget.
3 minutes.
Oh, we got 3 minutes? Why'd I get the 1 minute warning?
Because I hit it by mistake.
Thanks, Jim. Go ahead, Valerie. So
I just think that social networking is a valid strategy. To fill yourself up, get your social needs met, so that you're not miserable while you're single.
So your advice, like if I'm in the singlehood sucks mode, is to just like be more community oriented, like be more interactive. I get that. But then what if you're in a space of like, because I feel like when you're a junkie of dissatisfaction, it's very easy to go down to that slope of like, that lonely, and I've been there too, that lonely, I'm depressed, I'm like, to go from 0 to 60 where I'm like lonely and depressed, and then reaching out and actually going and doing stuff, like what is it that I'm telling myself to get out there?
Well, I think that's exactly the question you need to ask. Like, what do you need to tell yourself?
Yeah.
I think it's just our negative thinking is really addictive.
Yeah.
I think it's just about like starting by just doing very small things that feel good. So like even if it's just like you can't get yourself out there, at least you can give yourself a nice bath. You know what I mean? You can get a massage. You can go and have lunch with a person that makes you feel uplifted.
Yeah.
Or go to a puppy store and play with puppies. I used to do that in college when I was like so stressed out with college and stuff. And me and my friend, we would go to puppy stores and we would just go and play with puppies, and it would make us feel better. So it's like even if it's too overwhelming to think about going to an event and trying to meet someone or putting yourself out on Tinder or whatever dating app people use. Just something small that just makes you feel a little better. That's all, and then it kind of like you do something else that feels a little better, and then you start to grow. Baby steps. Start small. Here we are.
All right, now we are actually at the 1 minute mark, I think, unless Jimmy hit it accidentally again.
No, we got 1 minute.
We got 1 minute. All right, so I'm just going to wrap up for the audio people, and then we'll finish up with the Facebook Live people. Definitely singlehood is an opportunity, and whether you choose to see it that way or not, it is an opportunity. And Lee even says sucks could be a sign that there's some healing needed. So whether you're in a relationship or out of a relationship, going the other way is not going to be the thing that fixes it. It's take the opportunity for the healing, right? I think we all touched on it. Sarah touched on it. Valerie touched on it. And ultimately, it's about focus for all of these things. Focus on what you want to increase. That gratitude is all about what am I focusing on? What am I perceiving? Am I just looking at all the negative things that are going on? Am I just talking about them, sharing them, living them, listening to all the sad songs? And as much as I love music, there are so many fucked up songs when it comes to love. Am I just taking myself through those paces that are not actually going to have me be in a space of gratitude? Or am I making the choice to just look for the little things? Who was it who said start with the little things? Was that you, Sarah? Like start with those little things. I love that, going to play with the puppies in the puppy store. Like it, whatever you want to say, whether you think looking for the silver lining is Pollyanna or whatever, that's on you, but it's the choice. Like, am I going to do something nice for myself or not? Do I deserve to have something nice for myself or not? You have to make that choice for yourself because nobody else can choose it for you. And for the people on audio, never forget you're a love machine. If you ever feel like you're not getting enough, just make more and ask for candy. And thank you on radio for being with us. And the people on the Facebook Live, I see Anne Reed joined us.